vote through a little used process we call reconciliation. Your version of the bill. You can say that this process has been used before, and that would be right. But it's never been used for anything like this. It's not appropriate to use to write the rules for 17% of the economy. Senator Byrd, who is the constitutional historian of the Senate, has said that it would be an outrage to run the health care bill through the Senate like a freight train with this process. So this is the only place, the Senate, where the rights to the minority are protected, and sometimes, as Senator Byrd has said, the minority can be right. I remember reading Alexis de Tocqueville's books, which most of us have read, and he said in his American Democracy that the greatest threat to the American democracy would be the tyranny of the majority. When Republicans were trying to change the rules a few years ago, you and I were both there. Senator McCain was very involved in that, about getting majority vote for judges. Then Senator Obama said the following: what we worry about is essentially having two chambers, the House and the Senate, who are simply majoritarian, absolute power on either side. That's just not what the founders intended, which is another way of saying that the founders intended the Senate to be a place where the majority didn't rule on big issues. I mean, Senator Byrd in his book, Senator Reid in his book, writing about the Gang of 14, said that the end of the filibuster, requiring 60 votes to pass a bill, would be the end of the United States Senate. And I think that's why Lyndon Johnson in the 60s passed the civil rights bills in Everett Dirksen's office, the Republican leaders, because he understood that having a bipartisan bill not only would pass it, but it would help the country accept it. Senator Pat Monahan has said before he died that he couldn't remember a big piece of social legislation that passed that wasn't bipartisan. And after World War II, in this very House and the room back over here, President Truman and General Marshall would meet once a week with Senator Arthur Vandenberg, the Republican chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and write the Marshall Plan. And General Marshall said that sometimes Van was my right hand and sometimes he was his right hand. And we know how to do that. I mean, John Boehner and George Miller did that on No Child Left Behind. Mike Enzi and Ted Kennedy wrote 35 bills together. You mentioned that in your opening remarks. You and I and many other senators worked together on the America Competes Act. We know how to do that, and we can do that on health care as well. But to do that, we'll have to renounce jamming it through in a partisan way. And if we don't, then the rest of what we do today will not be relevant. I mean, the only thing bipartisan will be the opposition to the bill. And we'll be saying to the American people, who have tried to tell us in every way they know how, in town halls and elections and surveys, that they don't want this bill, that they would like for us to start over. So if we can do that, start over, we can write a health care bill. It means putting aside jamming it through. It means working together the way General Marshall and Senator Vandenberg did. It means reducing health care costs and making that our goal for now, and not focusing on the other goals. And it means going step by step together to re-earn the trust of the American people.